Life is so interesting because it's such a balancing act. You spend too much time in your head thinking all the time. You start playing mental gymnastics 24/7. 1 second you're telling yourself one thing, and the next you're trying to cancel that out. Create balance. And that can get so exhausting, constantly changing your mind. A good example is 1 minute I'll be telling myself, you can't trust anything in this world. Everything's a lie. You need to constantly question. If you find yourself getting to a sense of security where you're just accepting anything anyone tells you, you're putting yourself in danger. Then the next day, I'll be telling myself, you really need to trust your instincts more. When you rely on your intuition and you allow God to guide you, things tend to work themselves out just fine. I think that ultimately these games we play with ourselves are just another reminder of why we need a shepherd in our life. And also very important to note is you can't spend all your time thinking. When I spend too much time inside my own brain, I can feel it deteriorating. It's so important to break that cycle, to go move, exist in the physical world as you do in this mental, spiritual realm. Every part of your body is a muscle, and to try and neglect any part of that is so foolish. I really enjoy speaking off the top of my head when I do videos like this because I think that my thoughts are more pure, more unadulterated. I've always been someone who prefers writing over speaking because I have a moment to sit there and think it through and consider the possible implications of everything I put on the page. But as I'm growing and maturing and turning into a man, I'm recognizing that there's so much more value in unfiltered thought. And when it comes to writing, I'm trying to work on creating an authentic replication of myself rather than trying to create a persona or a idealized version of myself. I'm trying to, as accurately as possible, spit myself out onto a page, hawk myself up like a loogie, and throw it in your face. I think that's the most respectful and beautiful thing you can do for a person. There's a huge difference between kindness and niceness. And this is a lesson I've been learning for years. It still isn't fully in my head. Okay, so say your friend comes to you. He's like, hey man, I'm thinking I'm going to quit my job and become a musician. And you're like, oh, really? That's cool. Let me hear some of your music. And he plays his song for you and it sounds like this. The nice thing to do in this situation, what a nice person would say is, oh, wow, man, that's really good. Yeah, keep it up. This is not the right thing to do. This is not kindness. This is niceness. This is weakness. The kind thing to say is, man, this needs a lot of work. And if you're going to quit your job, you need to really figure this shit out. It might sound harsh, it might sound mean, it might be whatever. If he's your friend, then you want what's best for him, and you need to be honest. Kindness and niceness get confused more than like anything else nowadays, I swear. Everyone walking around with shirts that say like, choose kindness. Be kind to someone today. And then the kind gesture is just like go up to a fat girl and say, you're so pretty. I mean, I'm not saying don't compliment people, but like it's just silly. Kindness is not being overly nice and giving everyone compliments. That doesn't change the world. That doesn't make any type of difference. All that does is inflate people's ego. If anything, you're doing them a disservice. Sometimes the thing that sounds mean, sounds harsh, sounds crude, is actually the right thing to do. And I have to say I've known people who learned this lesson much earlier than me, who practiced this at a young age, and who I grew resentment for because I did not recognize the true value in this. Now let's not forget that there is a right and wrong way to practice this virtue, as with anything. And the completely wrong way to go about this is your friend comes to you, says he's going to ask the girl out, and you say, man, you're way too fucking ugly for that girl. What are you talking about? That's a little wild. You're playing a little fast and loose with the definition of friendship at that point. You need to have some self-control. You need to rein yourself in. I like doing these talks because I use the word you. I say this is what you need to do. This is what you got to do. And when I say you, I'm talking to myself. I'm almost using these videos as a way to solidify the lessons I learned in life in my own brain. A friend of mine named LaRue, who I've been meeting up with every once in a while to discuss business-related stuff and just hang out. He said something to me about his sobriety and his experience overcoming addiction. He said that the only way to keep your sobriety is to pass it on to someone else. That's why in AA, when you reach a certain length of time, you become a sponsor to new people trying to get sober. That's not only to help that person, that's to help yourself. When you pass on the tips and tricks and ways to get through this to someone else, you're reminding yourself, this is how you do it. You know this. It's in your head. You have the ability. It's something that I find incredibly useful. And it's also another principle that has to do with throwing yourself in the deep end, so to say. It's like if you never accept any responsibility in your life because you fear that you can't handle it, you will always be right. You will never be able to handle the responsibilities you need to. But if you go in unprepared and say, pile it on, eventually you will figure it out. The only way to figure it out is to force yourself. Put yourself in that dangerous situation where you have no other option. And I'm starting to realize that when it comes to overcoming sin, when it comes to overcoming mediocrity, when it comes to mastering myself, the only way to achieve that is to present myself as if I already am. To walk, talk, think, breathe, eat, sleep, work like that is me now. Now that does not mean that I think I need to be cocky. I need to look at myself as holier than anyone, better than anyone, above the average person. It just needs that I need to keep moving the bar higher. Every time I look at myself and start to feel that pride, I need to look at God. I need to look at Jesus Christ and realize, you can always be a little better. There's always something to change. And I've started to realize that is why pride is a sin. Pride is something that gets tossed around a lot as a positive. Live a life you can be proud of. Make yourself proud. I've realized that the reason God tells you no, don't accept that feeling of pride, is because pride is telling yourself, you know what? You did good enough. That's all anyone can ask of you is what you've done so far. That is the most dangerous mindset. To tell yourself, hey, that was good enough. You just poisoned the water hole. You just stole any chance you had of getting better. The moment you tell yourself, hey man, good job. The moment you let that pride sink in, your progression is over until the doubt comes back. Doubt, guilt, shame, fear, these are all tools that can be utilized. When you start to obsess over these feelings, that's when it starts to become dangerous. But these things, we feel them for a reason. God has really created a perfect storm of emotions in a person's head. They all serve you. You feel them all for a reason. Stop running from your emotions. Stop feeling as if they're this scary, dangerous, and paranormal creation. You know, it may not be easy, but the moment you understand and rein in these things called emotions, you gain so much power, so much control. The things that allows you to do, it's unbelievable. I think as a man, strength is so important. It is more important than almost anything else. And God would agree. And it's really scary to me how many people would not in today's age? I think people look at this statement as an excuse to be merciless, to have no love for anyone, to essentially be evil. They say, what do you need to be strong for? So you can assert yourself over everyone, so you can dominate anyone who stands in your way. And they're only looking at it from the perspective of an evil person. And that's how you know that these people are surrounded by evil. They are submerged in it. When you are coming from a pure motivation, a pure intention, and you are building yourself up to be strong, to be powerful, to be capable, you are simply giving yourself the ability to defend what is right. If you don't believe in your values enough to feel it's worth becoming strong in order to defend them, do you really have any values at all? I think we live in a world that's so free of threat, so free of war, so free of any type of conflict, that we forget it's possible. We forget that these things can happen. And living like that, not only is it unnatural, not only is it damaging to us physically and mentally, but it's pathetic. I think my generation is in a beautifully unique position. I look at us as the chosen generation, to be honest. And I mean that in a good and a bad way. We have been chosen by God, and we have been chosen by the devil. We are surrounded by iniquity. We are submerged in filth. And we have two options. We can either sink in it or we can rise above it. One option takes strength. One option takes effort. But the other option hurts a lot more. But we as a people have become addicted to suffering. We love misery. We love complaining. We love the satisfaction of sympathy. We don't want people to tell us we can do better. We hate goodness. We hate what is good in this world because it reminds us of our own shortcomings. We need to rid ourselves of this toxic, nagging voice in our head that tells us there's no such thing as better. There's no such thing as perfect. Perfect is impossible, so why try? This was supposed to be a video about writing. That's what I hit record with the intention of creating, but I think what I made here might be something a little bit better. I don't know. We'll see what I end up doing with this.